Hello, this is Lisa LeRose. I'm joined with Michael J. Russ today on the Vibrant Living Network with Connect to Love. And today, if you've ever wondered how you can be your most radiant self, how you can shine from within, that's what we're going to be talking about today. Shining from within with happiness, doing things with love, and most of all, connecting with others, which is so important. I don't know if you've ever seen somebody when they're walking down the street and they just seem to have a glow or an enthusiasm or a vitality around them that they just seem to shine, and you want to be around that. And Michael J. Russ is one of those people. So welcome, Michael. How are you today?
Do appreciate it. Thank you for the compliment, but so are you.
Oh, thank you.
We all are.
Thank
we all
you.
are one way or another. We have to. I think sometimes we just get. It's very easy to get caught up in the stream of the 3D world of events and circumstances that we kind of forget that we have this ability to basically increase the I guess by our own vibrational frequency, the brightness of our own light. We have the ability to do that, and when we set the intention, it's when we then focus a lot more time and energy, much more of our personal resources on making it happen. And I know you happen to wake up in the morning, and it's an intention of yours, and as it is an intention of mine. And when you have that intention and you do work on your own brightness, you happen to also attract other people into your life that think the same way you do and have the brightness of energy that you do. And everybody keeps asking me, well, how do I get that? How do I do there? How do I go there? I said, it starts with you.
You're absolutely right. Mm-hmm.
The concept of you are who you're with is highly evident in the vibration that you're sending out. The people. Somebody the other day said, you need to find different friends. To somebody who's talking to somebody else. I don't know exactly where I heard it, but I can't remember the place. But it just struck me when this one person told this other person, you need to find different friends. You need to step up a level, and because we if we hang out with the same people all the time, we rarely really evolve unless those people are evolving. We're in the same groove, so to speak, and then it becomes even more uncomfortable to step out of that groove. And I know you were you talking before we came on about increasing your own brightness, and it is when you set it as an intention, it is unbelievable what happens. I believe in miracles. I believe in the magnificence of who we are, and that the universe has it will put us together with the people that can help us evolve and expand our presence in this life and elevate ourselves to be better than who we are, to achieve our grandest vision, whatever it is that you'd like to say about that. And we just have to focus on making it happen, and it starts within us, not outside of us.
I think I go back to some of the teachings of Marianne Williamson, and I believe it was her quote, it's our light, not our darkness, that frightens us. Be courageous and shine, and let your light shine. And for so many of us, I think, whether it be we're intimidated or we're afraid to step up or we're afraid to excel of the way that we're going to be judged. And for you, I think I was sharing with you before the call that I listened to the master class this week with Ringo Starr, and it was all about drumming, but really about creative collaboration. And I thought, I've always been a fan of his. I don't know, there was something to me. He always seemed to shine. Maybe it was the star in his name, that he changed his name to. But I remember in the movie Help, I think that was what got me to be a Ringo fan, and I love to watch him drum. But he there was something about him that was inviting, and what I thought was so interesting is, and I'd love to hear your comments on this. He said that he was left-handed, and as a child, his mother said, no, you've got to learn to write with your right hand. And so when he eventually got into drumming, he got a right-handed kit, but he was really a left-handed drummer. And so he had to do things a little bit differently, and that's what he said he thought made him a better drummer and a better human being. He said, there's a tempo to life, and in every tempo, there's a different beat, and you have to sort of find that. And what I found so fascinating was he collaborated with a lot of different bands. I mean, most people know him from the Beatles, but he said, he always followed the singer, and he allowed them to sort of lead, and that was where he shone. And I know that you, as a youngster, you started with playing. What you said, you were 13. Is that you started playing professionally?
Well, I first played in front of a crowd when I was 7.
Oh, that's amazing!
On stage with a big band, and at the time it was in the mid '60s. And I played just about every Saturday for a year. Every Saturday night I'd sit in for about 3 or 4 songs. And beyond that, I still play. I have a drum set sitting 4 feet from me.
I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So when you did that at such a young age, you opened yourself up and you allowed yourself to be courageous and to take that first step. And I'm sure that there were fears and apprehensions, and what was that experience like for those of us who have never been on stage and been a part of that experience? I'd love to know.
It's interesting. As far as you're fearful at first. I learned very quickly that fear could be conquered with presence, being in the present, being in the moment. Fear is something that is false evidence of something in the future that may or may not occur, and it manifests in you with those feelings now, but your mind is really thinking about the future. But if you bring your mind and your body back to the present moment, then and focus, it all works out. You have a way of gathering your energy, all of your presence, your energy, your focus, your attention. I mean, everything is in when you bring it into the moment. Nothing else around you exists, and it's really interesting because I've done what Ringo has been doing for his entire life, sitting in a studio, doing and figuring out. It's the most challenging thing to sit down in a studio and just work through. Somebody has an idea, and they play the melody that they're thinking about, and they're playing the groove, and they attempt to convey to you what kind of tempo they're looking for and what kind of style, and they play what it is, and you as a drummer come up with these variations of what you think it could go with it. And it's really, really one of the most interesting experiences I've ever had in my life, and I've done a lot of studio work. And some of it is just coming in and playing a cover that some other drummer has done, and you're just covering the tune. That's one thing. When you're playing a song that's already been published and somebody's already created and laid down the drum track. But when you're sitting in the studio and you're having to intuit all this, what the other person is thinking, what they're feeling, what kind of groove they're looking for, and you're laying down different things and trying out different things over and over and over again, there's an evolution that occurs, and it takes many hours for that to happen. And when you get to the end, you go, wow, that's the essence of creation, when you are sitting there and you get to the end of your 5 or 6 hours in the studio and you have this thing that's been recorded this baby that you've birthed. Really, it's probably I'm not a parent.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But it's very similar. It's an experience that most people really never have to do. I would say something that would come close, except for it's not a collaborative experience, would be if you sit down with a hunk of clay and you just start working with it with your hands. The difference between that and what I'm talking about is you're talking about, in some cases, 1 to 2 other people that you're sitting around all doing something different, all intuiting something, and somehow it all comes together. It has a magnificence all its own, and in essence, and I found myself many times just in awe when I got a track to take home to listen to and see if I want to make further changes. I was in awe that who was playing was me. I was in awe of that fact that I had done that, and that I had intuited that, and that it where it came from and all that it just blows you away. And so when you're a professional and you're writing your own songs, or you're working in a group, and when it's part of your profession or your hobby, so to speak, it's completely different. It's when you get a song that, again, somebody's written and they say, okay, we're gonna be a cover band and we're gonna play all these different songs that people know that have been on the radio. That's easy. I've done that all over the world and played with people, and it's pretty simple. The same focus and attention has to be there. And I do the same thing when I talk on stage in front of people. When I give talks, I'm very much. It's almost like I've got a left brain and a right brain dialogue going on at the same time, and that's the way it is when you're playing drums too. People go, "How do you do that?" All 4 hands are doing something different, yet it's all coordinated, and you're like, "Wow!" And I've had this intuitive ability to do that since I was 7, and I got music playing in my head all the time. I've got, drum beats playing in me. I'm beating on the steering wheel. My girlfriend says, "Stop that." It's
that's wonderful, though.
Yeah, that's
absolutely.
It's beautiful. But then,
when I was listening to this master class, and it just, I don't play the drums, but what was so fascinating to me was he talked about all the different parts that go into making the kit, and I was thinking about all of the pieces. What a great metaphor for life. You have of course your dream kit, but you really he said he keeps things pretty simple and in his thing, and it was interesting for me to learn about the different types of drums that there were and the different cymbals and why you would want something, the hi-hat versus a splash versus, even just like a floor tom-tom. And as I'm, learning that, like listening to that, and then he picked up a tambourine and he shook it and he talked about like the looseness of it. And I thought, geez, this is so powerful in relation to the way we live our lives. You think you need all this stuff, but really, you can have a simple cowbell and a hammer and, different places you beat it and you get a different sound.
Correct.
And I thought to myself, in life, it's sort of the same thing. We all have those different places where we can create a resonance, where we can create music, we can make a tempo. Like you were saying on the dashboard, you can be drumming out a beat. You can be, you've got that rhythm, that flow, that thought, that process, and you've got to get it out. You've got to let that shine. Really, you're allowing that expression.
I love your analogy there. Tying this to life, and it makes me think about when we are just going about our lives on a daily basis, and how a lot of our lives are rote. They're just the same moves every day in, day out. How much of our life is standardized, so to speak, and how you have the ability as a human being, a creative individual, to step outside of the known, so to speak, to bring back the concept, the vibrant living concept, outside the known, to just do something different, to open your mind to other aspects, to something that's not rote. And maybe you're tapping into your own creative element, your gifts that maybe have been long forgotten, and you're able to reconnect with those gifts. Everybody has something. It's funny. Everybody has something they're really good at, and I've always encouraged people to figure out what that is. Get back in touch with what it is. Think back to your childhood and what really made you feel good. Was it beating on pots and pans? Was it, if it was musical in some way? I know that it's true that we don't need a lot. I love what he said when it comes to keep it simple. I've seen drum kits that have 25 pieces, and I've seen drum kits that have 5. And you can play all of those, but if you have a 25-piece kit, you've got to figure out how to play all 25 pieces, how to fit all 25 pieces into what you're playing.
That's got to be exhausting.
Yeah. I know some people who can really do that, but yeah, it gets a little complicated. We talk all the time. We talk all the time about drummers have different styles, and just like people have different personalities and different ways of living. And in the musicians' world, there are people who toe the line with regard to the beat, the groove. They keep it simple. And then there are those who like to fill everything in. We call them riffs, where you're playing the beat, and but you have different, what we call fills, with going to the toms and going to the cymbals, and you're filling in the notes. If it's 1, 2, 3, 4, you're playing in between 1, in between 2, and you're making 8 beats out of 4 beats. That you're filling in everything. And what's unique is simple is always best. Simple is there's just something about simplicity. And we complicate our lives to the point sometimes where we just crave simplicity. We become so overwhelmed because we've crammed our life with so much. And that we feel we need to fill in all the time. And we don't. It's a lot easier when we just cut things back and simplify. We're happier because our brains aren't trying to, wrap our mind. We're not trying to wrap our brains around everything that we're doing. I'm always in awe of parents that are on the go from, sun up to sundown and beyond, with their kids, trying to do everything in the world with them. I'm going like, when do you sit down and just have quiet time with the kids? Well, there is none. There's no time for them to get to be with themselves, because they're always with other people running around all over the place. And as adults, we grow up like this, and we always have to be busy. And I know people who don't like to be alone. Their minds are too busy to meditate, they say. To sit down quietly in a room. I'm going, what are you talking about? And it's like, no, I can't do that. My mind's too busy. I can't quiet my mind. And I said, part of the reason you can't do it is because you say can't. Your perspective, your looking at meditation is something that is mindfulness. You're afraid of mindfulness is really what they're actually telling me. They're afraid to be alone with themselves, alone with their own mind, because there's something may come out and bite them, so to speak. Do you have people like that you know?
Oh, I just had this exact conversation. You're so intuitive this morning with an individual, and we were speaking on that exact subject about people not wanting to be alone. And the gentleman that I was speaking with, he said, I was in a relationship for many years, and he said, and I was so lonely. And I thought that, and I thought to myself, how do we find ourselves in that place where there's no conversations, there's no point of connection, which is what this show on PRN FM is all about. It's all about connection. It's about
finding those pieces of ourselves that match up with the heart of somebody else and create something really powerful. And I think that in the absence of that, yes, there is loneliness. So what do? Do you stay in the the comfort of everyday flow, knowing that you're just existing, or do you step out, you have the courage and you step outside that and seek out other things? And eventually, his relationship fizzled out because there was no connection. But I thought, geez, life is way too short not to have that. And my great aunt celebrated her 100th year on this planet this week, and and it was wonderful because my cousin came and shared the day with her. She still lives by herself, and so she had a one-day celebration. The mayor of the city that she lives in sent her flowers. She didn't want any flowers from anybody. She said they're too much bother, but then once the mayor sent her a bouquet of flowers, she was quite happy with that. And then she had another group of my cousins came to see her the following day, and there was a lot of people that wanted to see her. And my one cousin said, it's amazing how powerful and strong her memory is, and she does remember so many things. And I think it's because she grew up with those very deep connections. She was very connected with her sisters. They were on the farm. They supported one another, and I think it really makes a difference when you have that. And she's lived by herself. Her husband passed away many years ago, but she's not lonely because she has those connections. And in your life, Michael, do you have individuals that have experienced the same thing?
The lack of connection,
yes.
Being with someone but feeling alone.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is that I've had I only know one person at this particular point who, as a matter of fact, I've been counseling this particular gentleman, kind of coaching him. He's 38 years old, and his mind is always busy, and he becomes his own worst enemy when he's by himself. It fascinates me. It fascinates me how he degrades, he devolves, I should say, not degrades, but he devolves into this, into beating himself up and focusing only on the worst things in his life instead of the best. It's almost like the concept of, and I keep telling him, I said, tell me all these things you have that you really like, that you really enjoy. He goes, this. So why don't you sit down and have a little gratitude session? Why don't you focus every day on, you get up in the morning, be focus on being grateful that this thing is your life, that thing is your life, that you have this, that you're there, that you have the house, you have these 2 dogs, these wonderful dogs, that you've got a job that you love, and the people who come there who love you as well. And I just went on and on and on and on. And somehow, yet here 4 months later, the conversation, when he's at home, his mind still devolves into thinking about the worst of himself, and I in my view, I'm not a psychologist or psychotherapist or anything of that kind. PhD is the last thing I want behind my name, but kudos to people who do want that. However, my intuition simply tells me, and I've conveyed this to him. I said, we all, when we're impressionable, there are times in our lives when people supplant things in in your mind. They're called thought viruses, and I'm not quite sure that they mean well, but with this particular gentleman, I'll make a long story short, his stepfather had never had kids before. He had never, and he basically became a stepfather of adult children. And I come to find out that his stepfather, he and his mother talk every day. And his stepfather somehow always just started beating up on him verbally and telling him how terrible he was and how he was the worst. And it stuck. And I tell him, I said, I don't know why. And, to sit around and try to figure out why is another thing altogether. And it's a big, deep, dark hole that you go down into and never come out of because you're still looking for the light and there isn't any. But I mean, it's amazing that we have this, and I'm always fascinated by people who are uncomfortable by themselves. And I'm going to say it out right here. Back about 30 years ago, I wasn't too comfortable with myself being alone, and then I became more and more and more comfortable as I began to read more about my own. I helped myself evolve beyond that state, and I saw I know when I was in my early 20s, I would, if I was home on a Saturday night, instead of out at a club dancing or enjoying or meeting people, I kind of felt, what the heck? I kind of felt bored. I kind of felt like I wanted to be out, be around people, and I come to find out I am a people person, but there's an aspect of you that really get to, when you really get to know yourself, and you give yourself time to be alone, you get to know yourself, you evolve beyond that state because you set the intention to evolve beyond that state, to be comfortable with yourself and try some things. It is amazing what can happen. Between then and now, I'm a different person.
Absolutely.
Than you were yesterday.
Completely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's. However, now I love being alone. I really enjoy it. If I'm not reading, I'm sitting around meditating. I'm thinking. I'm imagining. The fact that we were talking about Robert B. Stone a couple of radio episodes shows ago, and this is a man who teaches you how to use your imagination, and I have come to understand once you tap into the power of how you create your own reality, how you create your own life, how you help yourself, how you yourself can evolve through things. It's mind-blowing the tangents you can go off on. And I encounter people who are pretty much just kind of in a little square box. It's kind of afraid, to move outside of that box. And maybe they don't want to travel. They don't want to go places where they don't know anybody, where people don't know them. They're uncomfortable with the idea of meeting new people. And I tell them, I said, the most amazing thing is that when you trust yourself and you trust the divine, and you emit the frequencies of happiness and love, and you have faith in yourself, and that the universe would never really bring you bad things, especially if you're thinking good things. We're all going to attract what we think about most. And so I caution people not to think about, be fearful of other people, or that something will go wrong, or they'll get in an accident. Don't make that your dominant thought process, because that is what you manifest. You will manifest something that validates that. It may not be your worst nightmare, but it may be something, and you're like, why did that happen to me? So the idea of working on yourself, the idea of getting comfortable with being alone, and the first thing I suggest people do is work on a hobby. Find a hobby, something that you enjoy. Do that alone. The creativity that's involved, the inspiration, the intuition, all of those things will come to pass, whether it's painting or drawing or I don't know. You can become the best cornhole player in the world alone. I mean, this game you can play by yourself.
I never even knew there were tournaments about that until I saw one on TV. That there really is. There's competitive.
There is,
and it was on ESPN or something. I was like, wow.
ESPN 10. Yeah, they're out there. It's funny because when I it's interesting now that you mention this. Do I know people who don't like to be alone? I know people who don't like to play golf by themselves, and it's a singular game. I used to love in California when I lived there, going out to the course at after work by myself and meeting up with people and just playing. And
I would imagine that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, except there are many people who are just afraid to do that. They're afraid to play with somebody they don't know. Maybe it could be that they don't want to embarrass themselves. Golf very much mirrors life. So if you go somewhere that where you're unfamiliar, you might be confident in yourself, but not so confident around other people because you don't really know them. And I've been somebody who, having moved every 2 years, and I know you moved a lot, you developed this ability to connect with people, throw yourself into an environment where you know no one, and by the end of an hour, you know 2 people, at least 3 or 4 people. Heck, you might know everybody by the time a couple hours go by, because you develop those skills of communication. And I love playing golf by myself. I enjoy sitting and reading by myself. I enjoy the inspiration that comes from just sitting around thinking about something. What's interesting is this is very interesting, very unique. Warren Buffett, one of the billionaires, richest billionaires in the world, spends 80% of his time thinking. 80%.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Sits around in a chair and just thinks about all kinds of possibilities. And I think he imagines. I think he intuits. I think, that when you're quiet. I tell somebody this. I said, you're so busy that the angels would never be able to communicate with you because they can't get a word in edgewise.
That's true.
And they're sitting there waiting for you to help you, and all you have to do is say, "Please help me." Yet people are so busy, wrapped up in their own lives, own issues, own problems, own challenges, that the thought of asking a divine being for assistance that's there to assist you doesn't even come to pass. And I learned something when I heard that for the first time. 80% of the time thinking, and I said to myself, what? I spend most of my day sitting around thinking, reading, looking for that catalyst, that guidance that will send me in one direction or another. And I do that a lot when I write my podcasts. I'll sit up and I'll write for an hour or two. Sometimes it just seems like I'm there forever writing. And I'm just intuiting, and if I get an idea, this should be the next line, I just write it. I don't say, does this fit? Does that fit? Does this work with the last I just write it. I get a flow down. And anybody who teaches creative writing will tell you, just start writing. Write what comes to mind. Don't judge it.
Absolutely.
And it's what we do in life,
write
too.
a page a day.
Yeah, you write a page, you just write. And the bottom line is that you'll go back and you'll read it, and you'll end up rewriting it 2 or 3 or 4 times. However, and it'll all develop some organization of its own. I know people who create an outline. For my books, my audiobooks, I've look at a title perhaps, and then I kind of get a flow together of what I think I want to do, an A plus B plus C, A, B, C, D, something in line. But then I sit down and you've got to start somewhere. You just start writing. And what if we could do that in life? What if we could just get up in the morning and we just see where the day takes us? Wow, wouldn't that be interesting? Life without structure.
Very true. Very true. I really like what you said, Michael, about, being by yourself. I think whenever we're trying to discover or develop our talents, it requires introspection and reflection and self-knowledge. And, if you want the insights from other people, you can always ask. But I think, in figuring it out, what your gifts are that you have to offer, you really need to explore your own interests and let your curiosity guide you. I mean, I think for any of us, if we want to do something significant in allowing
our light to shine or to make somebody else's life better, you kind of go into that place of introspection. And what I admire about you, you as a teacher and as a friend or as a mentor or coach, you allow, you let your light shine through and allow that light of the other people to be brought forth. I mean, I think that you nurture that in other people. You see the diamonds that they may not see in themselves. And I think a lot of your personality and your charisma, radiates to those other people, and it allows that opening. So I would really encourage our audience here on PRN FM and Connect to Love to do the same, to find those diamonds in other people and really bring them forth and allow those to shine. So Michael, I'm curious, what types of things would you suggest for people sort of to discover and develop their talents so that they can shine brightly?
Well, before I answer that question, I'm going to kind of add something which you just said, which I thought was absolutely awesome. And part of that, the skill of letting your own ego go and getting out of their way. A lot of times when we sit down, we want people to be the best they can be, and when that occurs, it's not up to us, and we have to recognize that it's not up to us. All we can do is influence and guide. We can't control, and which means that we have to leave our own judgments out of it. We have to be mindful of how we're impressing ourselves onto someone we know is looking to evolve. It's almost as if we have to let them go into the house of mirrors and kind of find their way around. We can be there in case they get lost. However, the life journey is about them getting lost and how they handle it. And
that's a beautiful analogy. I love that. What came to mind is the funhouse mirrors. You're stretched out a little bit, or
you're James Bond
elongated.
It's true though. When you walk into the house of mirrors, there is a path through. You just have to be able to. You have to let them. If you're guiding someone, you've got to let them make the mistakes and intuit the right way to go on their own. There's so much more satisfaction that comes from, and fulfillment, and joy, and meaning that comes from getting through whatever it is. Getting through to the other, to the other side, getting out of that fun house, so to speak. Because that's kind of what life is like, anyway. In many ways, it's kind of like that. It's a fun house of mirrors, and we will run into other people who are lost as well, and we'll run into people who know the way out. And I'd rather go into a hall of mirrors and get lost, and then run into somebody who can help, who together we can get out, because they know something I don't know. So let's learn from that, from what their mistakes have been, and they can learn from my mistakes, and we can move forward. We'll get through it. Now, yeah, I love the little metaphors like that, because they help people see that see what's going on. But I'll the ego and the judgment. Judgment is a major issue with people with our society today. We want to judge absolutely everything, and it's one of the biggest wastes of time and energy and thought that's out there. We don't need to judge. We just need to be. We need to be where we are, and when I get introspective, because I do talk a lot. My mother says I can talk the wings off a bee, which is her favorite thing to say about me. However,
what a gift, though.
yeah, I know. However, when I'm not talking, is when people think, what's wrong? He's not talking. My girlfriend would think I'm in a mood. Really what I'm doing
isn't that interesting, right?
Yeah, no, like they know me so well. I'm thinking, I'm giving something deep thought. I'm focused on thought. And if I'm not speaking, I'm focused on thinking about something. I love intuiting answers, solutions. I think I said this before, but most people's lives don't have a beginning or ending. Their days don't have it's just they get up and do the same thing over and over every day where there's no ending. And we all need to participate in something that has an ending. And this ties me into your question. How do you discover your talents and your gifts? And when I wrote a book called Smart College Career Moves way back in I think 2010, and I was it was aimed at millennials at the time to help them use their time in college to help improve themselves to the point that they would be employable by people when they got out. So much of college is spent, partying and having a good time. Less of it is spent actually using that time and making choices along the way that actually, along your college years, that actually put you in a whole different place when you graduate. Most people don't think about getting a job or being marketable as a person to a company until 6 months before they graduate, which is way too late. There are organizations you can join, and that's something you can do as well. I guess where you'd start is in the most unlikely places. Assess how you feel about yourself and your life. And then go back and say, what made me feel really, really good when I was younger? What did I do? Everybody knows something that they did. Either they, the finger painting they did as a kid made them feel wildly amazing. And I've told a story about how I drew a Ferrari one time and discovered that skill, and it's come in handy still to today, and I've used it along the way in life. We all have skills that the unfortunate aspect is that people who we respected and we cared about and saw as authority figures sometimes would tell us, don't waste your time with that. You're not going to make a living with that. And it was all about preparing you for, when you're out on your own, being able to survive on your own. And what a lot of parents, unfortunately, who do that forget about is that the way you feel when you're out doing the thing that you're doing that actually makes a living is enhanced by doing the other things that you don't make a living with, knitting, or you may love knitting, sewing. I had a business where I used a sewing machine for 4 years in a row. And
I think that's amazing.
Yeah, people look at me and go, "You used a sewing machine?" Yeah, I was so creative. It was amazing. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, and I'd have these ideas, and I have to write them down. And in the morning, I'd just go to it, and I'd create it. And just like, again, sitting in a music studio, creating music. Everybody taps into something. I've never met a person that didn't do something when they were younger that really brought them joy and fulfillment. And you just literally go back to that. You go back and say, why don't I just go do that? Why don't I, if I was good at working with wood, why don't I borrow some tools from somebody and create something? Go buy some wood and just design something, create something. And put yourself in a position where you have to think something through. The other thing, too, believe it or not, that really helps, and this is really out of left field, is do a couple of online personality tests. I know people who don't even know what their strengths are and what their weaknesses are, so that they can play to their strengths and focus on in improving their weaknesses, what they're not so good at. Understanding who you are, what makes you feel good is what you feel amazing. I get up every morning, I feel amazing. I feel magnificent. And I get up every morning and go to the barn with my girlfriend and help her clean stalls and, drop hay. Something that she still wonders why I'm doing, but I've turned it into
it's soul nurturing for sure.
Yeah.
And I have to share with you when you said that you would find inspiration, you would be on that sewing machine, and when that thought and that
idea grabbed you, you would just sit there and you would create. And one of the things Ringo said in the master class, he talked about how Mark Bolan used to come in and be like, "Hey, back off." I'm not doing a good accent, but and he'd be like, "Back off, Boogaloo." And he said that was just how he talked, and Ringo left him, and he said like later that night he was thinking, and all of a sudden, that song, the lyrics for "Back Off Boogaloo," which became a song, it started coming into his head, and next thing you know, he was laying there in bed. The whole song, and he said he had to get up, and he sat down at the piano, and the whole thing it came out. And so you never know who it is that you're going to run into in the course of your day that's going to say something that's going to trigger that inspiration, that's going to unlock the key to whatever it is inside of you that is just waiting to come out. And I love that he shared that, because it made me laugh, and I could see him, tapping to it, and he said like there was a rhythm to it. There was something, that simple melody, came subconsciously, and then, he sort of found the groove, and so that's what we sort of do in life. And as you said, and now that I'm thinking about it, even a sewing machine has a tempo. That needle going up and down and up and down, and
you can find tempo.
You create.
In everything.
I mean, it does, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find tempo in absolutely everything. And I somehow pick it up. I pick up the tempo. And in the oddest things in life, the woodpecker outside the window banging on the tree has a certain groove associated with it. And and I can just go on and on about that, and it's beautiful what you just said there. I will simply tell you that there's one thing I know I cannot do. It's just I'm not a songwriter. I'm not a songwriter. It's like I have such admiration for people who do write songs. My area of the music is completely different. I'm not the originator of a song. I can come in after somebody's kind of originated a melody or whatever, and I can add what they need. However, I, again, am in complete awe, and I literally have met, in the last couple of months, I've met, if not 3 or 4 country songwriters who have 10 number 1 hits under their belt. People who are the most unassuming individuals, you'd never guess that they wrote for some of the biggest country stars in the world today. And and there's a collaborative effort. They write with somebody else. And listen, just something, forget about doing something so grandiose as that. It's amazing what happens when we intuit a solution.
Right.
Intuiting a solution. I was. If you hear a corgi in the background, I apologize.
Oh no,
Hopefully you don't hear.
That's what's the beauty about doing things live, and there's no apologies necessary for a dog.
Absolutely, it does.
Dog love.
Apologies. The
corgi's putting in its own tempo and its own beat. It's barking to its own beat. Right. That's so sweet.
Well, I'll tell you this.
Well, that's what Ringo also said. He said, if you don't have a drum set, which I don't, he said, no bass drum. He said, you own 2 feet. You find a surface, stomp on it. And, no snare drum, use a bucket. And, no tom-toms, you use a plastic bucket. You just, it's like no cymbals, use a metal saucepan lid. And I remember I know so many young children, they can't wait to get into their mother's pots and pans and bang on them. On them.
Yeah. And the mothers should allow them to do that.
So there's no, a perceived obstacle is really no obstacle, and I really love you, and that's what your point was with the cornhole game, which I'm not very well versed on, but you make use of what you have. You don't let them become obstacles in pursuing something that could really, keep you from showing your greatness.
Yeah, it is so true. We have the ability to do many things. We can multitask. We can think about the things that bring us joy that have nothing to do with any element of our lives. We think they're not moving us forward. We think they're a waste of time. However, really, those things bring us balance, and they ground us and help us tap into a part of ourselves that allows the rest of our life to be better. It is. We cannot escape the benefit of doing something, whether it's being great at chess or being great at dominoes, doing things that make your mind work, that allow you to face the challenge and find a solution to it. To me, that's what I love people who are great with woodworking. I love finished carpenters. I love what they can do with tools, even the most rudimentary of tools. Now we're talking about something that plugs in a wall. We're talking about something that is more appropriate technology of old, that can carve things and cut things, and it's just so amazing to me what the feeling that can come from solving a particular problem. If you own a home, you're into solving a lot of problems, and you're into intuiting solutions to things that other people might call an expert for. And of course, there are some things that do require an expert, of course. However, there are when you're doing landscaping, you have the ability to use your creative mind to put something together, and you can see the finished product for months and months and years down the line. I love starting out this thing, by the way, about Ringo, and because it is something that's so close to my heart, and I completely understand where he's coming from, and I know that with someone like that, helping you see that pots, pans, buckets, you can even go out and get a very inexpensive pair of a maraca or an egg that has rice in it that you can shake to music. People who sing in the shower. I mean, it's just anything and everything. You'd be pretty amazed at what people can be really good at. And I'm always blown away by that. You never know, and trying new things also helps spark that intuition and creativity as well. You never know what you might be good at, what you might have a talent for. If you don't try, you'll never know. And the beauty of life is that you can try. We have the ability to choose, and what we the people we interact with, and the things we interact with. I love it.
Right.
It's such a fabulous.
And one thing, and this goes back to what you were saying, how individuals will have people in their lives that perceive, through perception would shape their life. Now, Ringo shared that his father left his mother when he was age 3, and he ended up having a stepfather come in, and that stepfather, when he had the desire to start playing the drums, he found through somebody that had passed away a drum set, and he purchased it for Ringo to get started on. And Ringo, he said, he said he was the 16-year-old smarty pants that he was. He said, I don't want to play on that old thing. But he found what he wanted, and he fell in love with it. And it was his stepfather's encouragement. He borrowed the money from him, and he paid him back. He got a job, and he worked towards his goal. And, so he didn't let something that would be, my father left me when I was 3, and that became my obstacle. That became my excuse. It became, he really had a love for this man who encouraged him. And we never know who in our lives will be that who will step in and support us in what it is that we need.
The lesson there is don't focus on the adversity.
Yes,
it's
absolutely.
What people do. They focus on the problem, the issue, the challenge, and not, and that pretty much takes up the whole scope of their thinking. I love it. I played my parents found a drum set for me, believe it or not, in I think it was it was in Taiwan. Yeah, way back in the mid-'60s, they found me a drum set that actually, believe it or not, and don't laugh, the skins were real.
Oh my goodness!
Were real? Yeah, they were real deer skins. Real deer skins stretched over a hoop. That was the drum set I played on from 7 to 14.
Wow.
Until age 14. And at age 14, I got a sling and a drum set. The company isn't, and that's the drum set that's sitting behind me right now. My parents were
wonderful.
Gracious enough to spend an exorbitant amount of money in 1973 on a drum set that I still have today, and I've taken care of it and cherished it, and I take it out on gigs if I go somewhere or whatever. But I know drummers that have 2 and 3 kits. You know, they're always buying another one, and they use this one then, and they use this one there, and it blows me away. When you're involved in something like that, and it could be anything. I know artists that have a million brushes, and different palettes and easels and other things that they use in their vocation, in their hobby. You love it. You embrace everything. You start surrounding yourself with things, and the whole creative aspect, by the way, is that's one of my bailiwicks. I love it. I absolutely love what next thing I can do that allows me to expand upon my creativity.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you sent me a beautiful photo of the sunset in your area, and I think when you see, like, each day you get inspired, you see the sun shining off the water, you see the light, the way that it reflects, the golden light in the morning or the evening. I mean, I see it coming through my windows as well. And I think when you never know what it is that you're drawn to. I drawn to light, and perhaps it's because of that connection to shining. And I encourage people to always look for the inner light in others and also in yourself. I mean, so many times we allow ourselves to be dimmed down, and really that's not what this lifetime is about. You have an opportunity to share a new story, or write a story of what it is that you want to become, really, to allow yourself to be part of that greatness that shines through. And and in so many ways, Michael, you do that, and I'm so grateful for everything that you share. And it really is. It's about what Glenn Brooks started, living vibrantly and shining. And,
every day. Here's an idea for you, though. Here's an idea for our listeners. It's about kind of redesigning the way you look at the day and being more present. And my suggestion is to look at the weather report, and if it's not going to be cloudy in the morning, get up and watch the sun come up. Mm-hmm. Watch the sunrise. Look and look at it. Really look at it. Be present with it. It's an amazing feeling. I do it every day. There's no clouds in the sky, and that's probably 325 days out of the year here, where I am down on the top of the Gulf Coast. However, I look in the east when I get up in the morning. That's the first thing I want to look at. Is I want to see how the sun is, what the sun's going to be rising into. Is it going to be a little strafe of clouds, like somebody took a paintbrush and just, painted the sky with some clouds? I want to see how it happens. And a lot of pictures that I take, I put them on my Instagram, and I've sent a couple of you and some other people when there's something absolutely striking. It makes me feel so good to know that there's a new day and that is the way my day started. And too much what we do is we get so into our 3D world of living that we forget to be present. We forget to enjoy the little things that are absolutely free, no cost, but make you feel so absolutely amazing. And I encourage our listeners to reframe their days about around the beauty that not only nature provides, but other beauty that they see as well. Be present and be one with your day instead of running through it as fast as you can, like you're on a sprint. Which is the tendency. I got to be here, I got to be there, I got to be here, got to be there. Well, that's great. When I was in California, I'd get up at 5:30 in the morning and I'd meditate for 45 minutes in darkness before the sun came up. And I found that I was so able to connect with love at that time of the morning. I just didn't want to stop. I didn't want to come out of it. It was just such a loving experience to me to just connect with, my angels and my guides, and to intuit things. And I have a notepad next to me that when I got done, I'd write down certain intuitions that came to me, inspirations, so to speak. And then I'd move through with my day. It was just we will all have to find a really peaceful way to begin our day, one that allows us to be present with life instead of just getting up and running. And it's just a great, and then ending the day. I end the day sitting down for a moment and just focusing on the quietness, the stillness of the night. And it's just I close my eyes for a moment and I experience some things that I'm grateful for. I think about the day that's gone by, and I sort of envision how the next day will go. And maybe I'll take out my pendulum and mess with it a little bit, the energies, have a little conversation with my guides, my spirits, whatever. And I know that might sound a little bit strange to some people. However, Robert B. Stone does teach you how to energize a pendulum, how to connect with how to energize it, put your energy into it. And you, I believe, know how to do that with crystals. Am I right?
I do, and I do know how to do that with a pendulum too.
Yeah.
And that actually would be maybe we'll talk about that on the next show. It's amazing how quickly the time passes when you and I share information. And I'm so grateful to everybody that tunes in to Connect to Love here on the Vibrant Living Network with Michael J. Russ and myself, Lisa LeRose. And I'm going to actually end with a quote, and if you want to add anything after, Michael, I'd love you to welcome you to. But Ringo had said at the end of the class, he said, if I can give you anything to take away, it's just love what you're doing. That doesn't mean you all have to be musicians. If you want to be a musician or if you want to be a scientist, go for it. Because enjoying going for it. He said that's the battle, because that's the battle. And really do that. Go for it. Love what you do, and connect to love with everything that you do.
That's true. I don't need to add anything to that. That's pretty much the key to a happy and fulfilling and meaningful life right there.
Beautiful. Well, we look forward to you joining us next week, and have a beautiful week.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.